The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Wednesday episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com. I'm Anthony Hartwig, and as always, we are joined on a Wednesday by Mr. Scotty Minter. Scotty Too Hottie. Scotty, how we doing today?
I'm good, ready to go. Excited for all the tournament action. Last week we had all those games that were canceled, so it's good to have all the action back.
Yeah, you're right. Last Wednesday, we were sitting here talking about, well, nothing. It was one of those shows where we kind of just blabbed for an hour because there were no games to talk about the night before. There were also no games to talk about that night. This week, a lot different. It's warm, it's sunny, it's beautiful weather outside. We are being blessed on tournament time. At least Mother Nature has smiled on us for now. This episode and every episode brought to you, by the way, by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. They go the extra mile for you, so you don't have to. We try to do the same on this show every single day, and we thank Greenwood Chevrolet for their constant sponsorship of this show and YSN since day one. Scotty, what we're going to do today, we're going to have a great episode. We're going to first update the brackets on the softball side. Divisions 2 and 3 were in action last night in sectional semifinals, so we're going to go take a look at how the brackets look now in those divisions. I'm going to pop the brackets up on the screen so you guys at home can see what we're looking at. And we talked about divisions 1 and 4 yesterday because they were in action, Monday night. So now we have to talk about divisions 2 and 3 and what their brackets look like now. We'll start with division 2 in Northeast 1 as we bring up this bracket. One sectional final is set as Marlington is going to now be playing Painesville Harvey as Harvey gets the win over Conneaut 7-5, a close one. The Spartans got some momentum on Monday as they beat Edgewood, and they brought a lot of momentum in this game, trying to pull off the upset of the 10th seeded Harvey, but they just couldn't quite get enough. Scotty 7-5 final score there. Harvey advances. We have another one, West Branch getting the win over Kenston 7-3. 7-2, excuse me. They advance to the sectional final. Big win for West Branch, Scotty.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like with those first two scores, that 7's kind of like that good number, the lucky number 7. You get that, and you're good to go.
You know 7's always a great number to get. In softball, it means that unless your pitching is off, you should win a game when you score 7 runs. The game below them, Edgewood, 1 off of 7, Scotty. It was a 6. 6-4, they get the win over Crestwood, and they advance to the sectional final against West Branch. The interesting thing about this, Scotty, exact same sectional final in basketball, girls basketball, as we're seeing now in softball, and it will be at the same place. Edgewood is the higher seed. They will host West Branch on tomorrow night at 5 o'clock.
Yeah. So, what do you like as far as the seeing the same matchup you said I believe in another sport and now again in softball here. Is there any, as far as you know, athletes and um going into this now, do you think there's a thing that gives one team an edge over the other, or do you think both teams are, going to be, not that they won't be ready to go, but do you think at this point it's really anyone's game at this
I do,
point?
and during the basketball season, when these two teams met in the sectional final, it was actually the second year in a row that those two teams met in the sectional final in girls basketball. Last season, like 2 seasons ago, I guess I should say now, Edgewood did not compete with West Branch. West Branch kind of ran them off the floor. This year, the basketball team absolutely did compete with West Branch and gave them a very good basketball game. West Branch still won. So now in softball, I think Edgewood kind of feels like West Branch isn't this big, mighty, monster they have to fear. I think they're going to come into this game really confident, especially the girls that did play on that basketball team, like McKenna Venzel, who are going to come into this game with, not a lot of intimidation factor. And one of the things that I think is going to be a storyline when you look at this matchup is that Edgewood did not pitch McKenna Venzel last night against Crestwood, who is usually their number one pitcher. So Edgewood making that argument that we so many times have. Usually it's in baseball when we have it, where who are you pitching in the semifinal? Which one do you want to be fresh in the final? Well, they're going to have a fresh McKenna Venzel now. In softball, 1 day break, you should be fresh even if you pitched um, the game before. I mean, you really should be. But, it might be a little bit of an edge for Venzel that she didn't have to pitch in this Crestwood game. And, you look at West Branch's win, they did have to pitch Clary McKay, who is their ace in the circle. And she had a great performance. You look at her box score, her final line, it was 7 innings pitched, only gave up 5 hits, no earned runs, no walks, and 8 strikeouts. She pitches like that, Scotty, then West Branch is going to be swimming in success. McKay seems to be finding her groove late in the season, which is good for West Branch. Her offense was not their problem this year when they had their bugaboos. It was definitely the pitching, and it was a brand new pitcher, first year in the circle of diversity level. So she's starting to find her groove during tournament time, and that can make West Branch very dangerous.
Yeah, and not only did she not give up any runs, but she showed the ability with the I believe you said 7 punch outs.
Yeah, eight
Uh,
eight strikeouts and no walks. That's a good ratio right there. And both the runs that were scored were unearned, so no earned runs for McKay in that great performance in the circle for West Branch. We move to the bottom of the half of the bracket. Aurora, the three. excuse me, that came out of nowhere. Aurora, the 3 seed, they will now play West Geauga, who got the win over Geneva, 4-0 last night. So West Geauga sets up a meeting with third-seeded Aurora tomorrow night in Aurora at 5 o'clock. And in the last half of the bracket, Jefferson knows their opponent now. They will host Ursuline tomorrow at 5. This is going to be a really good YSN matchup, Scotty. I'm looking forward to it. You got Sammy Speakman from Jefferson, who has pitched so well this whole season, going up against an Ursuline team that really they could either pitch Mia Opalik or Liza Barbado. They've both pitched really well this year. Their offense has been not as prolific as it was a year ago. They lost some of their bigger hitters from a year ago, but they can still score. They proved that last night against Cheney. Obviously, it was a seed mismatch with 9 versus 25, but 22-1, Ursuline got the win over Cheney, and they advanced. So this is going to be a really interesting matchup between two good pitching staffs and two offenses that aren't overpowering but do have the ability to score.
Yeah, you talk about getting those timely hits. It's not about getting hits in bunches. It's about getting them at the right time and when they have to get them. So I think that'll be key. Uh, just real quick, Anthony, out of curiosity, if you were Urslan, who would you be going with
Oh,
on the diamond?
you're putting me on the spot, but because of the tournament experience in the circle, I would probably throw Mia Opalik. You don't want to lose this game. This is going to be a road matchup against a 5 seed Jefferson. Um, I would throw Mia Opalik in this game and let her work, and then have, Barbado in the bullpen always ready to go. But I would start Opalik probably because of the tournament experience that she has in the circle, pitching in relief last year for Paige Ogden, especially coming in and pitching really well in that regional final that they eventually lost, but went 13 innings in against Tesla, and eventually fell. So you talk about that Ursuline team. That's another big storyline, by the way, Scotty. A lot of these players were on that team last year that did fall just short of going to Firestone Stadium and the state tournament. So they do not want to lose before they even get the districts. They're going to be a very, very hungry team as they go to Jefferson and try to punch their ticket to another district tournament.
And how much, if you had to put a percentage on it, Anthony, when you talk about experience compared to, maybe a little bit more youth, but how much does an experience like Ursuline had last year, does it help, like, going into a matchup at this time this season, or is it kind of, in your opinion, are they two totally different seasons, and you just got to kind of flip the script and or not flip the script, but turn the page?
I think it's like 50-50. I don't think experience, especially, it might go a little bit up in tournament time, just towards like 60-40, because the experience is not something just to turn your nose up at. I mean, to be in situations before, to know how to react in situations, that's important. And that's why in tournament time, it gets really important. Like, if you've been there, you've done that, you know how to win in tournament time. You know what it takes to get in these situations where it's literally win or go home. That can be something that they really lean back on. But in the regular season, experience doesn't mean everything at all, and you could go up against a really young team that hasn't been there before, and they can beat you just off of the fact that they're better. But in the tournament time, it definitely does help to have some experience on that team, especially like a regional tournament experience. So they know exactly what it takes to win a district. They know exactly what kind of things they have to do to go out there and win a district, and that can be a dangerous team. Jefferson. Um, on the other end of the spectrum, this is probably the highest seed they've gotten in the tournament in quite some time. So they're playing like the new kids on the block, and Urslin's coming in like the old vet that doesn't want to give up his spot. So it's going to be a fun one between Jefferson and Ursulin. I'm really looking forward to it tomorrow at 5:00.
Who would you say, based off what you said and it being 50-50, um, and you think it's gonna be a fun matchup, but if you had to give an edge, or maybe not so much an edge, but maybe the biggest, if this happens, this team will win, or if this happens, Ursuline will win, or Jefferson will win. What do you think's one of the big keys? Is it simply the pitching? Is it getting on the board first? What would it be?
Holy smokes, you're putting me on the spot. You're making me pick. Let me see. Well, when I look at Ursuline and some of the things they've been able to do this year, some of the things they've been able to do really well is I'm gonna dive into their stats a little bit. As a team, they hit 359. So they're a 359 hitting team. Their highest average on the team is Vanetti with batting 500. So if they can get the high end of their bats going, Lily Dietz is having a great season hitting 484. Mio Pollock's hitting 431. They need to get those hitters going. If those hitters kind of set the tone, then they can do really good things going forward. But Jefferson is going to try to keep those hitters off balance. And the reason why they're going to do that, Scotty, is once you get past maybe 3 or 4 hitters, the averages kind of drop a little bit. You're talking 333, 301, 291. So you get past the ones that are hitting above 450, and there's not that part in their lineup where girls are keeping that consistent through the lineup. So I think if Ursulin's going to win, they're going to have their best hitters set the tone. And if Jefferson is going to win, they're going to have to do the opposite and make Ursulin beat them with a consistent 1 through 9 attack in the lineup. So I think that's going to be the key. How Ursulin does maybe the first 4 hitters, in that lineup 1 through 4. What are they able to do? Are they able to set the tone, score some runs, at least set the table for those middle of the order people? Or are they going to be shut down by Sammy Speakman and have to really rely on their 5, 6, 7, 8 hitters to set the table and get something going on offense? The other thing I look at when I look at Ursulin's stats is the power numbers are pretty good. I mean, 10 home runs as a team, and they're pretty spread out. So you got Pollock with 3, Patron with 3. You have Barbado with 2 and Saluga with 2. So there's not one power bat that you can kind of avoid, even though the averages aren't all there. So I think if you're Jefferson, you definitely have to keep Ursulin in the ballpark as well. That'll be a key for Jefferson. Same thing with Ursulin's pitching staff. Jefferson has a very widespread power when it comes to the lineup. A lot of girls have proven this year that they can leave the ballpark. So maybe one of the edges of this game is going to be who can keep who inside the yard.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. I guess it's really true when you talk about the home run threats on both Ursulin and Jefferson as well. I guess it's true. Chicks dig the long ball, right?
Especially when they're the ones hitting them, Scotty.
Yeah.
We'll go to Northeast 2 and see what that district looks like. The second seed, Canfield Cardinals. They officially have an opponent as Perry beats Salem 10-0. So Canfield will host Perry tomorrow night at 5. The Perry Pirates, by the way, don't get that confused with Maslin Perry, which are the Panthers. On the other end of that bracket, Notre Dame Cathedral Latin was able to win last night by a final score of 11-1 over Ravenna. So Ravenna is knocked out. And then the bottom of that bracket saw Hubbard win last night 11-0 over East. So Hubbard versus NDCL. That game going to be happening in Notre Dame Cathedral Latin. That's an 11-12. So it should be a very, very good game in Chardon, I believe, is where Notre Dame Cathedral Latin is located. And actually, we can find out, Scotty. We can just click the site info on the Chardon, Ohio is where Notre Dame Cathedral Latin is at. So that game going to be very interesting tomorrow night between 11th seeded NDCL and 12th seeded Hubbard. Bottom half of the bracket, we have Field with the 4 seed. They had the bye. They have their opponent set as Girard got the win last night over Strother. So 14th seeded Girard going to travel the 4-seeded Field tomorrow night at 5 o'clock. Girard, I think, has what it takes to get an upset. Emily Rosaith got her 300th strikeout of her career last night. She has a 2-0 loss to South Range the night before, where she proved that she can really pitch very well against a good lineup. So Girard has what it takes, especially in the circle, to pull off that upset. I wouldn't sleep on the Indians. Last but not least, the Lions had a bias, the 7th seed. They have the Howland Tigers. They will host Howland tomorrow night. The Howland will host the Lions tomorrow night. 5 o'clock is your first pitch, and it's going to be another game that is divided by 1 seed, 6 versus 7. So, Scotty, this bracket is very competitive. You look at it, we have 6 versus 7 on one side, and the other side we have 11 versus 12. I know a lot of people think Canfield's a heavy favorite overall in this bracket, but these sectional finals look very competitive overall.
Yeah, and isn't that the beauty of what we've talked about the last couple of weeks on the show is just the amount of parity in these sports and around this time of year. It seems like year to year, at least since I've been on board, the parity has grown more and more, especially in the last 3 or 4 seasons or so. So it's a great thing from an entertainment uh, perspective value. If you're a fan, you couldn't ask for anything better.
And we are all fans, that's for sure. I'll give you one last look at this sectional final for Division Two as we pop up to the top. Canfield versus Perry, NDCL versus Hubbard. Then we have um, Field versus Girard, and last but not least, Alliance versus Howland. All those games happening tomorrow. Let's go into Division Three and look at what the results for their sectional semifinals were last night. We'll start with Northeast One in Division Three, and we'll go with Poland getting the bye. They eventually have an opponent. They will host Canton South tomorrow night at 5 o'clock in the brand new Poland softball field. The last game happened at the brand new Poland softball field as they'll move on to districts if they're able to win that game against the Wildcats. Brookfield, right below them, they had the bye. They have an opponent nailed down as the very good Rootstown team. They get the win, and Rootstown and their great pitching staff will go to Brookfield and face one of the best offenses that we have in the YSN network, including Abby DeJoy, who leads the YSN network in home runs so far with 14 on the year, and she has tied the Brookfield program record for home runs in a season, held by Bailey Drapola, who has just finished her senior season at the University of Pittsburgh. We go down to the other side of the bracket, and it is South Range. They have their opponent as Crestview got the win over Mooney last night, 19-9. So a familiar tournament foe for South Range and softball. It wasn't too long ago that these two teams met in a district championship game. This time it'll be a sectional championship. South Range versus Crestview at South Range tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And then we go down to the last half of the bracket. Scotty, Garrettsville, Garfield. They had a bye, and they have their opponent as the Pymatuning Valley got the win last night over Liberty, and the final score was 10-0. So Garfield will travel to Pymatuning Valley tomorrow night at 5 for a 12 versus 9 matchup. What are some things that you like about this bracket, Scotty? You say some, and then I'll have some takeaways as well.
I like kind of that South Range, going up against that familiar foe in Crestview, and I think like South Range is starting to become one of those schools now that because they've had so much success, and they've had success after having adversity, some struggles a couple seasons ago. Their championship aspirations in football just fell short. And this year in basketball, the boys, they got off to a slow start. Then they rebounded, had a really nice season. And I just think they have become the hunted now, and where a lot of programs want to be. But Crestview, nothing to sneeze at. So I like going into it, like I might on the surface, like without diving deep into the statistics, favors South Range, but I really think that matchup, it could be really close to 50-50.
Every time we talk about South Range athletics, I like bringing up the fact that it's one that has skyrocketed since 2015. Where you look at it, since then, Soccer's been to the state championship. Softball's been to two. Wrestling has a state championship win. Football's been to two state tournaments and a state championship win. Am I missing any? Baseball won a state championship. That's all since 2015. And before 2015, you look at their history, not a lot of state championship or state tournament appearances, a couple here and there from their football team back in 2005. I believe they got to the state semifinals before that run they made in 2017 to the state semis. But yeah, 2015, something was put in the water at South Range where their teams went from dominant in the area. They could win districts, they could win, get into regionals and things like that. But then they went from that to, dominant in the state, which is awesome to see a whole athletics department kind of shoot off the way they have.
Yeah, it really is. And we'll see what they have in store for the Rebels. Um, but South Range, they just continue to roll, and as they say, the winning's contagious. And as you said, Anthony, since 2015, so going on a decade now, they really have turned a corner.
So I want to talk about this Rootstown Brookfield matchup that's right below them. I know a lot of people, obviously why Rootstown is not a YSN team, but it's one that our YSN teams now have to deal with and contend with. If you've not seen Shelby Krieger pitch in the circle for Rootstown, she is something else to really handle. I mean, their offense hasn't been great this year. They haven't given her a ton of run support. That's why they are 16-4. Their losses, just to give you an example, I mean, they've lost with 1 run scored, 2 runs scored, and then they've lost with 3 runs scored. So their losses, their offense has kind of let them down a little bit. But you look at the stats from Shelby Krieger, who has put together a great season for Rootstown. 80 innings pitched, 80.1 if you want to be exact. She has started 17 games, appeared in 18. And then her ERA, Scotty, is just over 1.13. She's got 179 strikeouts, excuse me, and just 29 walks on the year. She is a bona fide superstar down there at Rootstown. And she's going to go up against this Brookfield offense that has put up runs at will this year. I already talked about their home run queen in Abby DeJoy, but Sophia Hook is hitting over 700 at the leadoff spot. Ariana Jones has been lighting up the RBI count with over 30. So they have a lot of really good big hitters in this Brookfield offense. They're going to be going up against, if it wasn't for South Range, probably one of the best pitchers in this whole bracket in Shelby Krieger. I think this is a very, very interesting matchup. It'll be in Brookfield. But Rootstown is being the 8th seed might feel a little bit underseeded. And to me, they feel a little bit underseeded too. This is a tough first draw for Brookfield. They have to feel like, what the heck just happened? We put together a really good season. We're the 5 seed, but we get stuck with Rootstown in the first game of the tournament.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if it's a case where Rootstown, and you mentioned their ace and the phenomenal season that she's had, and if it's gonna be the case where her great pitching and only allowing just over a run per start every start, and having a ton of strikeouts to go with it as well. You wonder if it's going to be the case where the great pitching whole really puts a halt to the great offense of Brookfield, or where will it be a case where Brookfield could maybe get a couple runs early and then put pressure on that Rootstown offense, which has kind of failed to deliver at times this season.
By the way, Miranda Nicholson for Boardman is for Brookfield is no slouch either in the circle. This could be a pitcher's duel. Miranda Nicholson has 105 innings pitched for the Warriors. She's 17-3 on the season with an ERA of 2.2. She has struck out 105, but the really big number, and this is actually a lot less than Schrieger at Rootstown. She only has 10 walks in the season. So she has really stayed away from the free passes this year, and that'll be one of the keys to her pitching against Rootstown. Like I said, it isn't a tremendous offense. They don't light the scoreboard up. They really rely on their pitching a lot of the times. So we'll see if that ends up being a pitcher's duel or if Brookfield's able to bust out the bats a little bit and shock Rootstown, who did beat Boardman last week 6-1. Both teams have a win over the Spartans this year in Division 3. Another one I'm looking at, Scotty, is under the South Range Crestview matchup. Garfield Pymatuning Valley, I think, is going to be very interesting as well. Pymatuning Valley, obviously, were undefeated in their conference, kind of ran the slate. The one time I got to see him, I was really impressed with their pitcher, Sage Payne, and also Bailey Alderman, their shortstop, and one of the really good power hitters in their lineup. But I think Garfield has something that can really pay dividends come tournament time, and that is Kendall Hahn at the top of their lineup, one of the best slappers that Ysn Network has a ridiculous on base percentage. And when you get in the tournament time and it comes down to little things, sometimes having hitters that can consistently just get on base and cause chaos on the base pass can be really important. And I think Garfield has that for sure in Kendall Hahn. So I'm interested to see what Garfield does in Pymatuning Valley tomorrow night.
Yeah, you talk about hitters, those hitters that are like pests, and they're not necessarily. Do you always worry about them? Taking you deep, but as you said, I have a knack for putting the bat on the ball, putting the ball in play, and finding a way to get on base. So it's definitely, I think, Pina Tuning Valley and Garfield. I think this could be a tremendous matchup. Maybe we'll see. I really like the South Range Crestview as well, and we've talked about the other matchups, but maybe this one will be a one where we see sort of dramatics. I think we could see a really wild finish in this one involving the base Steelers. So we'll see what happens.
And let's go to the last bracket in Division 3, and then we'll take a break, the Northeast 2 bracket, and see what that looks like after the first sectional round play last night. And we go into this one, and the second-seeded champion Flashes, they had a bye. They have their opponent as Berkshire got the win last night over Camel on the road, an upset as the 20 beats the 18. 15-5, Berkshire gets the win in Camel. They will play champion tomorrow at 5. On the other end, it is going to be one that was already set, so no sectional semifinal needed. Beechwood versus Whitcliffe tomorrow night to decide who will go to the district semifinals. The next one, we see Columbiana. They had a bye. They have an opponent now as United got the win over Grand Valley. Final score there was 19-1, all United. And this is another year where Columbiana gets a really tough first tournament draw. Last year, they had to deal with Gilmore Academy. And this year, it's United, who they've beaten twice, Scotty, but they've both been really close games. I think United feels like they have a chance to spoil the party in this one with Tori Firth pitching and obviously her hitting ability as well. That'll be a fun third matchup between the EOAC rivals in Columbiana tomorrow night at 5 o'clock. We go into the bottom half of the bracket. Lakeview had a bye as the 6th seed. Their opponent is set as they will play at Ravenna Southeast tomorrow night in Lakeview. Candlelight Knowles is your place there at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, that's you went over those games and you talked about Columbiana getting a hard draw for the second season in a row and a familiar opponent. Do you think during this time of year, if you're facing a team from your own conference, do you think it's like where you know you could possibly see a team like Colombiana get upset because the opponent being so familiar with them, or do you think it's one of those for both teams where nobody really has an edge because they're familiar with each other and everything just gets kind of thrown out the window?
I know this is a cliche because this can happen in any sport event at any time. But I think games like this are ones where really anything can happen. There are no secrets. So it's going to come down to just who executes a little bit better that night. And I don't think it's going to come down to as much strategy as much as execution, because you look at it and it's like, okay, Mackenzie Gamble and Torrey Firth are both really good pitchers. Who hits their spots more? Like, this is going to be like that plain and simple. Who hits their spots more? Who's able to execute their pitches a little bit better? What offense is able to make some adjustments more? When you have games like that where it solely comes down to just that, it can be like a wild card. It really is. I think this is a wild card game. I wouldn't be surprised if one team executes a lot better than the other and it's a blowout, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's an upset or a close game either. I mean, I really can't decide exactly what's going to happen in this game because I don't know. I think Columbiana might feel like they should have won by more in the games against United. They might tighten things up a little bit. United might feel like, hey, we could have won those games. We should have won those games. It means both these teams are going to come into this game extremely motivated. There's not like bad blood, but it's still a big rivalry. It's a respect rivalry that they have for each other. So when you have that kind of game in the first round of the playoffs, it's like seeing like Brown Steelers in a wild card, which obviously you saw a couple of years ago. That it has the intensity of a playoff game, but it also has the intensity of that team is our rival. Like we do not want to lose to this team out of a tournament. So one of the worst things in the world for Columbiana, I bet if you asked them, would be to lose in this round to United. Like to lose to a conference opponent to United would just be like the worst stick into the gut you could have, because you won the conference, you went undefeated, and if you lose to a conference opponent in the tournament, that conference trophy kind of goes right out the window, right? Because you like, who cares if you won the conference? One of your conference opponents beat you out of the tournament, and they get to go further than you. So Columbiana is going to be motivated, but United wants to take that stick and poke it. So this one's going to be fun. This one's going to be fun in Columbiana, Firestone Park, tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Don't miss it.
Yeah. Do you think like in this game, this particular game, we've talked about it being definitely, not so much bad blood, but definitely rival. Like they definitely want to beat up on each other. And you talked about Colombiana's close victories. Maybe they feel like they could get even better, and then United feels like they're right there. Do you think this is one of those matchups where maybe the team that scores first could really that could be the difference in the game, that they could really change the complexion of the game if they come out and they're scoring first? Or do you think, like in games like this, and because baseball and softball, a lot of times there's so many ups and downs that, the first punch doesn't really maybe mean quite as much?
I think whoever scores first has a big advantage in this game because There's going to be so much tension before, so it's going to be the tension breaker, right? So whoever breaks that tension is going to have a lot of momentum. I'm not going to sit here and say team that scores first is going to automatically win, but I think the team that scores first has a really good chance of getting that victory. So it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun to see. Tomorrow is the Division 2 and 3 sectional finals. Divisions 1 and 4 are in action tonight. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Scotty, you brought great stuff to the table like you always do. We'll see what's on Scotty's mind, and then we'll also preview the night of baseball and softball tonight. So don't go anywhere on Running Point. Brought to you as always by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, we offer a worry-free experience for all our customers. From sales to financing and even service, we'll help build your perfect vehicle
and lock in your trade value
while your vehicle is being built.
No worries.
We guarantee financing,
regardless of your situation or credit history.
No worries. And when your vehicle needs service,
our award-winning team will get you back on the road.
No worries.
That's what going the extra mile means. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Change. This one word can make you break out in a cold sweat. But with change comes wisdom, experience, and understanding. At Myers Family Insurance, we can help make changes in Medicare, insurance, and retirement a positive experience for you and your family. We've gone through changes, like our new office and new faces to help our family of clients too.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance. Check us out online at MyersFamilyINS.com or find us on Facebook.
You're not waiting to see what the world has in store for you. It's more about what you have in store for the world. All you need is the opportunity. All you need are the resources of a large university and the advantages of a personalized academic setting where you can experience new worlds in the arts and sciences, business, and education and make them your own. We are where you shape your future. We are Youngstown State University and proud.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa.
And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing.
Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships.
We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team.
Your goals, our game plan.
Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com. Brought to you as always by those good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. You can see them above both our heads right there. They go the extra mile for you, and we try to do the same here on this show every single day. Scotty is with us on a Wednesday like he always is, and what Scotty always does is bring great stuff on his mind to every show. Scotty, you have time for probably one topic before we get out of here. So what's on your mind today?
Yeah, well, I was wondering, Anthony, the Ysn team, they did a recent article I saw on the Ysn page about sports and you know when boredness sets in with sports and things you can do to combat that and avoid it. And I was just wondering, for you, buddy, being a part of the Ysn team as long as you've been a part longer than me. I joined in 2019. You were already on board. So I just wanted to know for you, because for example, you've talked about what your game stories and what the headlines, the toughest thing for you sometimes is coming up with that great headline, because you have to come up with one for, so many games. And that's something you really kind of pride yourself on. But what do you do yourself, not being an athlete, but being a guy that has a voice and is a contributor to give these young boys and girls a platform to showcase themselves? what do you do when I'm not saying you necessarily get bored, but I know there has to be there's had to be some times where complacency is maybe set in for you. So what do you do? What are some of the things you go to combat that when you start feeling that way?
Ooh, that is a good question, Scotty. And I'll be honest, like there are parts of this job that we do that redundant, I guess, would be a word. I don't want to say boring. It's never boring because you're writing about like an exciting sports story. You're writing about a kid's accomplishments. But it's like, you have a pile of, maybe 15 or 20 games a night, and you're banging them out, and it's like it's kind of monotonous, right? It's almost like video editing. If any of you guys out there video edit, it's tedious. It's like, okay, we're doing this again and again and again and again. So I guess I just try to keep myself out of a rut a little bit, so it doesn't feel like I'm doing the exact same thing every day. That's, I think, when you get into complacency, when you feel like you're doing the exact same thing every single day, and you're like, oh, here we go again. It's this, and I know a lot of people thrive on like just a hard routine, but I don't really stick to a quote unquote like a very strict routine per se. I have a routine. I have things that I do to make sure the job gets done efficiently, but I'm also kind of loose with that routine when I can be, so it doesn't kind of get into that every day's a rut kind of feeling where you're feeling like every day you're doing the exact same thing and you're leaving the remember the cartoon when the characters in a rut, they actually have like a indent into the ground where they've walked because they walk it the same day every day. So
Yeah.
I try to do the things that like every when I can to throw a little loose reins into the routine a little bit and keep it not as monotonous. I think the games actually help because I don't go to the same spot every day. I'm always floating. So I'm going to different schools and seeing different teams and seeing different people. So that kind of keeps it a lot less monotonous. I think if I was doing the exact same team every day and doing the exact same thing at night, the exact same thing in the morning, and doing this show every day, that might get a little bit like ruddish. Is ruddish a word? Monotonous, whatever you want to say, whatever word you want to use. I didn't want to use like a big word like monotonous because that just sounds like classy. Like, oh, I'm so monotonous. But you get what I'm saying. Like I try to be loose with the routine when I can be. Obviously, there are some things you have to kind of stick to. You have to do it the right way. You have to make sure you're sticking to that routine to make sure it gets done efficiently. But there are also things I think that you can do to get yourself out of routine. I also recommend if you're someone that works really hard at your job and you are someone like everyone at YSN that is grinding a lot during the day, find something that you can do every day that is not that gets your mind off of it, that keeps your mind engaged. It's just kind of, I don't want to say an escape because that makes it sound like so bad that you're doing work, but just kind of that thing that gets you off of that mindset for a little bit. For me, like every day I watch Jeopardy, so I try to do the trivia thing, try to keep my mind engaged with my brother. So every day we're watching Jeopardy. That's like a half an hour that takes me just off. Like my mind is completely off of YSN and it's on the trivia. So that's something that we do. That's something that I do. But there's something like that that's small. It doesn't take you away from your job too much or what you have to do, but it's just something that you can just fit into like a half an hour that is completely different, takes your mind completely off of what you're doing, and it's almost like hitting a reset button, I would say. So long, I know that's a long-winded answer, but those are some of the things that I like to do to make sure that I don't feel monotonous or get into that groove or rut.
So you're a trivia guy then.
There are some episodes of Jeopardy make you feel really smart because the categories are in your wheelhouse. And then some episodes of Jeopardy are like, man, I am so dumb. I don't know any of these questions. And they're just going by. And I'm like, don't know that one. Don't know that one. Don't know that. I'm an idiot. And then so you get the hit and miss. You get those categories. You're like, okay, I know this one. I can get this. And then there are those categories that are like, oh, geez, I'm not going to know any of these. Usually when Jeopardy hits you with French literature, that's a good no-go for me. I'm like, I don't know a lot of French literature. I'm sorry. I'm good at like history. So anytime it's like history hodgepodge, I can probably nail it. Word origins, because I had a lot of language classes in college. So like, roots of words, I can probably nail pretty easily. Pop culture, of course, because I'm a movie nerd and I'm a TV nerd. So pop culture questions, I can get, and normal literature. I know enough of it that I can probably get, at least 50 or 60% of those questions. I'm bad with author names. Like if it's book style, like if it asks about a book character or things that are happening in a book, I could probably get those, but like I'm really bad with who wrote what. Like those are out of my mind. Like I don't even know who wrote. Like even though it's on a lot of episodes, I'm still blanking on who wrote like the Hunger Games and stuff like that. Like I don't know. Even the old author, like I know Lewis Carroll, and I know he wrote Alice in Wonderland, and I know Arthur Conan Doyle wrote Sherlock Holmes. I know like little things here and there, but like author names, no. But if it's a thing about the characters, I could probably get those. What do you do Jeopardy at all, Scotty?
Jeopardy?
Yeah.
I
or trivia. I know you like to.
I
You
never
like to ask the
watched
questions.
I never watched it religiously. I remember that run when that one guy was on it that was like, he like never lost for.
Ken Jennings. He went like 70,
Yeah,
like
Ken
74
Jennings.
days.
Yeah, I remember his run. But
that was back when I was like in elementary school.
It's funny because like I always like there's so many questions that make me feel really stupid on there. And then like one of the ones that you can tell they're a brainiac and they're really smart, but they'll get a sports question and it's like they won't know.
Oh, they really fit in that nerd stereotype, don't they? They really dive into it. Not all of them, but there's some of them that like some episodes where it's a sports question. They're like, nope, and it's like, oh man, you're really going right into that like book smart, you're not sports smart stereotype, aren't you?
Yeah, they really go into that a lot. And there's definite times where I'm like, man, like I would definitely get that question, but I guess it's my own fault because instead of playing, the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire regular edition, I got a sports edition of it. So I guess too many things in my life have been sports geared, and not that I was a bad student because I got pretty good grades. I got decent grades, but I definitely feel like looking back on it, maybe a lot of people do once they're out of high school. I felt like I could have been an even better student than I was. But you've talked about, and I know because we've had discussions about it. I know you're big into music and movies as well. Can you give me a favorite to like motivate you, like a favorite music quote or one of your top 3 favorite songs when you are feeling like you're maybe in a bit of a rut?
Let's see, motivation songs. It's so hard. I know it should be an easy question for me, but it's because you're like, oh, you love music, but when you love something that much, it's hard to say like, hey, there's one. Like,
narrow it down.
Play one, right? It's almost like a playlist, and you have to go through and you have to honestly one of the ones that like I really like when I listen to it and I able to like live it out is actually from a musical, which is right there on my door. It's Wicked. It's called Defying Gravity, and that's one that like if you hear it and I hear it, and I'm instantly in like this good mood, like I want to go and I want to do amazing things, and it's called like Defying Gravity. So, I that's one of the songs that I probably go to. One of the many songs. And there's probably one from every genre too. Like there's probably a rap song out there that I'll go to, be like, boom, this one's gonna hype me up. Obviously Defying Gravity is more like the ballad. It's Idina Menzel belting Defying Gravity. But then you have like Go the Distance from Disney, from Hercules, is a good one from Michael Bolton. If you listen to the Michael Bolton version, it's a little bit longer and it's got those triumphant French horns. I really like that one. Frontline by Pillar, which is more of a rock song for you rock fans. It's got that awesome beat, and it's about having your battle cry and being ready for a fight. That one's really good. If you're more of a rock fan. So there's a lot of them out there. I don't know, every genre of music I kind of like. So I think I probably have one in every kind of niche that I would go and listen to. What about you, Scotty? I want to know some of yours. I'm not going to be the only one to answer this question. I want to see you struggle.
Some songs that get me pumped up.
Motivated.
Definitely the one, no matter how many times I hear it, but it always gives me that extra boost, the extra shot in the arm, so to say, is Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight. Especially during a big game, especially like if I'm at a high school football game and that comes on, forget it, man. I'm jamming out. I'm like Tyson in the first Hangover, where he's like, "This is my favorite part right here," and he does the drums.
Repeat the song, because I read Radar's question and I missed it. I think when you were talking, what song you talking about?
You didn't hear In the Air Tonight, Phil
Oh,
Collins.
I can feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Another one that has a good drum beat like that, or a drum drop, is what's the name? It's the title song from CSI Miami, but I can't think of the name of it. Dun, dun, dun. It's got a really long intro and then the drums drop, but I can't think of the name of it now. Like if I heard it, I would know it right off the bat.
Yeah.
Out
I'm
here in the
also,
field.
because I like drumming and stuff, I was a big Neil Peart fan of Rush.
Yeah.
So
Oh, Tom Sawyer.
yeah, Tom
Yeah, there you
Sawyer.
go. That's a good song.
Yeah.
I know my Rush.
Yeah. So those are a couple that would really get me.
And then
Like,
going back
and
to the
then
80s, one that is special to my family because we used to always listen to it. And I remember back when my dad was like, we built a house, back when we were, my dad and my mom were together. They had a house, they built it together. It's in the Highlands. When they were building it, one of like the first music memories I have is them both listening to Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now by Starship. So that's one of the ones that I can always jam to, like, and get real pumped up about too.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And it's on the movie Mannequin, which is underrated. So
Often,
I'm joking. Mannequin is awful. Don't watch the movie. Listen to the song. The movie it's bad. It's like 80s cringe. Don't see that movie ever. You ever seen that movie, Scotty?
I have not.
You don't want to. No.
But
It's like the 80th cringiest cringe you could ever have. We're running out of time, Scotty. We have to go. Love this pop culture discussion. I miss it. I love to have it every day. Gets your mind off of the monotony of a day. Thank you so much for coming on, Scotty, like you do every week. We love having you on. Thank you to Greenwood Chevrolet for sponsoring Running Point through all the wackiness that we're able to have on this show. And thank you all for watching Running Point every day from 1 to 2. Tomorrow, we're going to be back talking about tournament results from tonight. I am going to go over the baseball seedings because they've been out for a couple of days and their tournament's going to start next week. So I'll show you the seeding results of the baseball tournament as well as the brackets a little bit. And we do have another interview for you tomorrow as well. We're going to go back into Austintown Fitch for a minute and hear from another one of their softball players tomorrow. 1 to 2. on Running Point, brought to you as always by Greenwood Chevrolet. Enjoy all the softball and baseball tonight. Head over to ysnlive.com/live to check out our live games page and see where we'll be.